Welcome back to the Soap Dragon for another soap video. This month we've only got one soap video, but there are two soaps that are going to be released today. So the other soap is High Tea, which is one of my very early soaps, which is a bergamot and lemon with Earl Grey tea in it and a slice of lemon on top. So that will be on here, and I'll actually put the description of that at the end of this video as well, so you can see that that's also on release. So what I'm doing here is playing about with some soap dough. Now I've been, over the summer I did a lot of Polymer-Clay work and making canes and flowers and that kind of thing. So I thought it would be great to try and do that with soap dough. Problem being, soap dough doesn't stretch as well as Polymer-Clay. Polymer-Clay, because it's plastic essentially, it stretches and it's kind of fluid in the way that it moves, so you can stretch out a cane and make something really, really small and keep the detail. Whereas with soap dough, it doesn't have that flexibility. So my idea here was to make a big kind of petal cane. So that big blob there, I've got some pink and some orange, just kind of marbled together, not really mixed very well. I'm wrapping that in some blue because I want to create kind of a blue border around the petals so they contrast against the soap itself. So I'm generally using the same kind of Polymer-Clay techniques to just kind of roll this thing out and make it thinner and thinner until I can cut some petals from it, or some petal rods essentially. So, but what you can see here is as it thins, this blue is kind of breaking up, so it's not holding that kind of density of colour and border, which I probably should have been aware of. I didn't necessarily realise that would happen in the making of this. I like the idea and I'll use it again, but not to kind of create that edge, because if you want kind of an outline around your petal, that's not the way to go. I think I should have used some mica or something to kind of dust it and give it that colour, and that would have created a nice line in the soap. As it is, my little soap cane doesn't have the contrast really against the rest of the soap. It's a learning experience. Learned a lot. But it looks good, it's just not quite as good as I wanted. But again, it's all a learning experience. And I'm still into the Polymer-Clay, but not so much with the soap. So this soap is a chamomile and chai tea. It was supposed to be just chamomile, but what I thought were chamomile tea bags turned out to not be chamomile tea bags. So I ended up using chai tea as well to kind of excuse me, to boost the teeness of it. So here, generally sticking together was really quite easy. Once you've made the rods, just a little bit of water just kind of binds it together. But you've got to be fairly careful about making sure you kind of squeeze out any air bubbles and anything like that. There were a couple of small ones in the actual cut bars, and that's something I knew. I was aware that I would have to squeeze it quite a bit to kind of get any air bubbles out. That was the idea of having the blue outline, so that they would still be kind of separate petals even though they were squished together. But yeah, didn't quite work. But I kind of do like, there's a slightly kind of marbled effect with the blue, which looks nice. At least that's the excuse I'm using. So, I've got really quite a big rod there, and it's about an inch or so bigger than my mould, but I wanted it to be that much larger so it would I could cut it to fit rather than try and stretch it out, because that would cause more issues. So I'm using my Shea butter recipe here, and there's some titanium dioxide in with the lye water. It's because I'm not adding... Oh, is there? Yes, there is a little titanium dioxide in with the water, just to adds a little bit of contrast to the colour of the flower. Probably not enough. I think I should have either gone with all natural or lots of white. So I should have gone one way or the other, not kind of a little bit of white, because that wasn't really enough, I don't think. That'll teach me. So all of these soaps, it is kind of a learning experience. I don't have many years experience with soap. I've only been doing it for 2 and a bit years. So kind of building up to something bigger is kind of showing the development of over time, which is fine. Just these kind of small mistakes are aggravating to me, I think, when it comes to doing these voiceovers. Because I did this, oh God, this one in November. It must have been early November. And it aggravates me that I didn't quite get it right. It aggravates me that it's not perfect. But I think I've discussed perfection before, and yeah, I should know better. But I think with practice I'll be able to do this. I do like this idea of putting a tea in soap. The other one that's coming out this month is high tea, which is the bergamot, so that's Earl Grey tea. So I like that idea. I've got a jasmine and peach fragrance in the drawer, and I'm thinking next year I think I'm going to do a jasmine tea with some peachy bits in it, I think. But that's the thing, every soap I do, I have ideas for new soaps. So it's trying to limit myself to just doing 2 in a month. It's actually quite hard at the minute. I'm feeling inspired. It's about the only thing I'm inspired about this time. So yeah, my book of designs is growing steadily larger. But the problem with the English, of not English system, the what's called a CDPR, which is like the recipe licensing, where your recipe's been checked by a chemist and it's safe and whatever, signed off, is you can only have so many variations. So for each of my 3 recipes, I've got 6 variations listed, and for that you can only have something like 10% of things added. So that could be that is going to be your fragrance, your colouring, anything else you're adding. So it does kind of limit what you can do. A lot of my the variations I've put in are things like for a landscape soap. So I've got a green, a brown, a blue, and a white colour, and then whatever fragrance is. So that works as easy enough. But if you're trying to do something really complicated and intricate, and I've got quite a few of them coming up, technically, according to the system, you shouldn't be able to do them. If you're doing something that is like a pride flag, when you want 7 colours, then you can't have 7 colorants. You have to have your kind of primaries and then mix your own, which is doable, but some of the colours really don't benefit from mixing. They don't. The micas and the natural colours don't blend very well. So yeah. This system, the CDPR system, it's good because you know you're getting quality soap that's been checked and it's safe and all that kind of stuff. But it does kind of limit your creativity somewhat, and what fragrance you can use. So I've made a point of having a different fragrance for each variation, so that I can get them all passed essentially. But that means I can only ever use those 18 fragrances officially. So it's just a little bit aggravating, I think, because if you're planning out a year, planning out 2 soaps a month for a year, then that's going to limit you somewhat. So some of my recipes don't quite fall into the right bracket. But it's just a change in a fragrance, and knowing the fragrances as I do, I've matched up the chemical makeup of a fragrance with one that is similar, if not identical, in the license in the CDPRs. So I'm using virtually the same thing, although they won't say that. Anyway, back to the soap. So I've got, in this one, I've got chai tea. Now what I should have done is taken, this is essentially three bags of chai tea. I should have taken a pinch from the top and put that to one side, but I didn't. I tipped out 3/4 of it into the soap. So what I've got left in the pot to put on the top is all the dusty bits from the bottom. So it doesn't look as good when it's finished, but never mind. Again, things to learn as we go along. So I've kind of 1/3 filled with the soap. Now here comes the flower cane. And what I'm going to do is, I actually think it's slightly unnecessary now, but at the time I thought it was essential. So I'm running the soap down the soap cane in order to fill in any gaps and bubbles, which is a fine idea, but it makes it a really slippery bit of soap to try and then stick in the mould. So yeah, is it a good idea? Possibly, but yeah, it doesn't quite turn out the way I intended. Because it just ends up being slippery and makes a mess. So I think if I'd have just stuck it in, it would have been fine. But again, I should have whizzed this up a bit more, should have given it a bit more thickness, let it set a little bit more, because as I'm adding more soap, this bar just kind of creeps down towards the bottom corner, which is it's aggravating again, but it gives it a slightly more natural look, you know. That's what I say. Anyway, I love the fragrance. It's a chamomile fragrance, and normally I don't like chamomile tea. It tastes like pond water, but the fragrance is quite light and a little bit fruity, I think. So it's nicer in that way than a tea would be. And I think using a chai tea with it adds a little bit of spiciness. So it's kind of slightly fruity, slightly spicy, more interesting, I think. This is in my personal estimation. And again, here's where the soap maker in me got a bit lazy. I should have calculated for how much soap that cane would displace, and I didn't. So I end up with quite a few extra bars on the side, which it's fine for me because I like this soap, and I used a nice pretty mould for it because I normally just stick it in a square mould and a rectangular mould and it's done. But for this ones, I actually used I think a mould I got off Wish. That's little flowers. So it's pretty, and maybe if I do this kind of soap again, I would leave out the cane and just do it as a flower mould. I might feel a little lazy, but that's kind of where my head's going with this, because I think that is a good soap on its own. It doesn't need the extra. But I don't know. So yeah, this is a Wish